All right. Are we starting Jack Flaherty and Spencer Strider next week? Let's discuss on Fantasy Baseball Today Express. Welcome into FBT Express on Friday, August 15th. I am Frank Stampfl, joined by Scott White, and let's preview Week 22. First up, we have the schedule. One team with 5 games next week. That is the Tampa Bay Rays.
And I can't remember another time a team had 5 games this year. Hasn't been much of that.
No, there really hasn't. 20 teams with 6 games, 7 teams with 7 games. The Rockies, Astros, Royals, Dodgers, Padres, Giants, and Rangers. And 2 teams with 8 games next week, the Cubs and the Brewers. What about the Rockies? They do have those 7 games, 4 at home against the Dodgers and 3 on the road against the Pirates. Starter sit these 2-star pitchers. Jack Flaherty, mentioned his name. He is facing the Astros and the Royals, and it's been a rough go recently.
It has, and it seems like every week we have a couple of these in the 2-star pitcher rankings where, you know, we're frustrated with the pitcher and we want to say, yeah, go ahead and sit him, but then he lines up for 2 starts, and when you start lining up all the 2-start options, it's like, well, I could see this going more right for him than most of the pitchers on here. So I'll point out that this week's 2-start pitcher selection has about twice as many must-start options as usual. There's 15 of them at the time of this recording. If you go look up the full rankings online, 15 is about twice as much as normal, like I said. So if you have a couple of those guys, it would probably be a little more discerning with Jack Flaherty, but I do have him in the very next tier, advisable in most cases.
What about his counterpart, Spencer Strider, who gets the White Sox and the Mets, who just lit him up for 8 runs?
It's the same thing. Same reasons, you know. Obviously, there have been a lot of missteps recently, but there are enough good starts in there, and the strikeout potential is high enough that still lean yes.
Gavin Williams at the D-backs and at the Rangers.
He ranks below Flaherty and Strider, but in that same tier, advisable in most cases.
Zach Gallen against the Guardians and the Reds.
He's a tier below. He's in the points league only section, but I probably would start Gallen in a points league. There have been some quality outings in recent turns, and those matchups aren't bad.
And Seth Lugo, who has been struggling lately, gets the Rangers and at the Tigers.
He has been struggling lately. I'm not scared away by those matchups, though. I think in a points league, you just reflexively start Lugo. He's has a good enough track record for that.
Who are the 2-star pitchers that you were looking to add and stream for next week?
Not a lot, in part because, like I said, most of the 2-star pitcher selection is so high end, they're not going to qualify for this list. But Jacob Lopez does, and he's looked like a high-end pitcher his last couple turns. He's gotten a ton of strikeouts, and really most of his season has been like that. I'm still a little concerned it could be a gimmick, and I'll catch up to him eventually, but I don't mind the matchups. In fact, they're pretty good, Twins and Mariners, so coming off those impressive 2 starts, got to start Lopez. Michael Wacha has been very reliable of late. He gets the Rangers and Tigers. Jack Leiter he's been okay. He's been decent, and you got to love the matchups, Royals and Guardians. Brady Singer, Angels and Diamondbacks. Kind of middling matchups there, but and you look at Singer's game log, and it's a lot of like 7 innings, 1 run, followed by 4 innings, 7 runs. So it's not like he's a safe start, but in points leagues, I think he's good enough with 2 starts to use. And then much further down the list, we got Spencer Arrighetti. That's very risky. Honestly, too risky for me, but I have to come up with 10 names. So you're just kind of hoping things go right enough in his 2 starts against the Tigers and Orioles. But truthfully, I wouldn't want to do it.
All right, let's take a quick break, and we'll be back right after this.
When you need your sports news all the time,
we've got breaking news to bring to you.
CBS Sports HQ gives you a snapshot of all the sports that matter to you. When you need your sports in a snap, find it on CBS Sports HQ, streaming free anywhere you are.
Welcome back in to FBT Express. We already went through the 2-star pitchers. What about some 1-star streamers for next week?
One start streamer, Zebby Matthews at the White Sox. I think that's a very easy call. A lot of strikeout potential, good matchup. Jose Quintana gets the Giants, who actually have the lowest OPS against left-handed pitchers. Quintana's pretty boring pitcher, but things rarely go that badly for him, and seems like an especially good matchup there. Christian Javier, a lot of this hinges on how he does against the Orioles this weekend. I believe he's facing the Orioles this weekend, and then would be set to face them again the following week. So there were some good signs. Christian Javier, his return from the IL, but it's a sample of one. So for now, I'm putting Christian Javier as a sleeper for next week. Could change my mind depending how that weekend start goes. And finally, Hurston Waldrop against the White Sox. So really good matchup. 2 good starts in a row in the majors, but doesn't profile as a big bat misser. The splitter has played well. Seems to be working in a 2-seamer more, which might explain his success. But obviously, there's a lot of risk there, given that I'm basing this on a sample of 2 pretty good starts.
All right, let's get into the hitters. The best matchups for next week. We have the Dodgers, Rockies, Twins, Reds, and Marlins. The worst hitter matchups, Athletics, Rays, Mariners, Padres, and Giants. Who are the sleeper hitters for week 22?
Sleeper hitters for week 22. Now, a lot of names I really like here. I'll point out that a lot of the hitter matchups could kind of go in either bucket. They're mostly pretty middling. There weren't a lot of really good matchups, a lot of really bad matchups. So most of these picks are more about splits or just these are hitters who are performing well of late and they happen to be available. So certainly Jacob Marcy has been performing well of late. He's at the top of the list. Marlins do happen to have the 5th best matchups this week, but he might be top of the list regardless. You mentioned the Cubs and the Brewers have 8 games this week because of a doubleheader Monday. Now the pitchers on tap for both of them are pretty tough, but 8 games is 8 games. And I think for good hitters, I'd give that the edge over the tough pitching opponents. So Matt Shaw's been awesome in the second half, seems to have figured out how to maximize his power. Got him on here. Andrew Vaughn's been great for a while. Sal Frelick, same thing. With the 8 games, I like those 3. The Rockies have the 2nd best matchup, 4 games at home. Brenton Doyle's looks like Brenton Doyle again in the second half, so he's on here. Jordan Beck is on here, as he seems to be every time the Rockies have good matchups. Noelvi Marte's been playing well for the Reds, and they have the 4th best matchups. Jurickson Profar for the Braves. We'll see if he remains the leadoff hitter with Ronald Acuna coming back this weekend, but he was hitting leadoff when Acuna was last healthy and doing a good job there. And only one left-hander on the schedule. Profar, a switch hitter, has done much better from the left side this year. So that helps too. Luke Keeschel with the Twins having the 3rd best matchups. And finally, Colson Montgomery. Just hoping the power binge continues for another week. I think eventually that home run pace has to slow down. It helps that the White Sox have 0 left-handers on the schedule. Colson Montgomery, a left-handed hitter, much better numbers against righties.
All right. For more extensive fantasy baseball coverage, listen to our full-length podcast, Fantasy Baseball Today, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or anywhere else podcasts are found. Thanks for listening to Fantasy Baseball Today Express, and we will be back again next week. Bye-bye.